It's showtime. Let's go tonight. Islam Makhachev, can he become a two-division champion in the UFC? We will find out next week at Madison Square Garden for UFC 322. UFC betting scandal. Isaac Dulgarian loses in the first round, then released the next day. Mysterious things going on. Halloween's over, but it's still spooky.
Let's go!
Like a different kind of spooky. It's like scary what's happening to the sport of MMA. How many fights are real, guys? How many fights are not real? We have to figure that out. How are we going to figure that out, guys? Fred? AJ?
Scary, man. That's the real Halloween stuff, man. I mean, hearing that with the UFC, I can see that like it's happened in baseball. We've seen it in soccer. With my team up here, Juventus got caught one time in some scandal. But boxing, we've known people taking plants, taking that one shot and they're on the ground and they're not getting up. But never would I think that would happen in the UFC because it's so hard to pull off because of the many ways to win, especially in a submission. It could happen. You could get caught, man. Everybody's been caught in some weird shit. But I don't know, man. I'm not 100% convinced it's still that there's some fixing in the UFC. They got to really.
You don't think in a sport where guys are making 10K that somebody would take a dive?
Well, he took a choke, if I'm not mistaken. But the thing is that, I don't know, man. I just find that
There are
hard.
questions right now, AJ. There are a lot of questions surrounding the sport. Dana White himself says that they are cooperating with the FBI because something is going on. They contacted the FBI right after the Isaac Dulgarian fight went down. If you don't know, last week, Yadier Del Valle and Isaac Dulgarian had a fight at the UFC Apex. It was for a UFC Fight Night card. Not a big fight, but a fight, where Dulgarian was supposed to win. He was the favorite in the fight. And he went down in the first round, and it was a little suspicious. And what added to the suspicion were the betting lines that favored Dulgarian and then started to not favor Dulgarian. He was still the favorite, but less and less so, and a lot of money was pouring in on Del Valle to not only win, but win in the first round. So the red flag started going up, so much so that the UFC was contacted because they have these kind of betting oversights, and all the sports leagues have different organizations that watch the betting lines and watch gambling and make sure that everything is above board and inform the sports leagues if anything isn't, and then steps are taken, obviously. They informed the UFC. They said something is up with this fight. The UFC went to this fighter. Dana White said on TMZ that we went to Dulgarian. We said, what's going on? Do you owe anybody money? Everything's cool. And he's like, yeah, everything's cool. And then he lost in the first round, and he didn't seem to give much of an effort in the fight. It was a weird fight for him, and people were confused. And immediately after the fight, Dana White says they contacted the FBI. So Dana and the UFC knew something was going on. They knew before the fight something was fishy.
Let him fight.
And they still let the fight go on, which is something we could talk about. Like, why did that happen? Why? They question the fighter, and then he's like, yeah, it's fine. I'm not throwing the fight. And then the fight ends in the first round, and then right afterwards they're like, oh, well, he threw that fight. FBI time?
Hey,
it's weird.
If you're doing something that is going to get you fired and your boss comes to you and asks you, are you doing this? Are you going to admit it?
Well, no.
Oh,
of course not. Yeah, well, that's it.
For Dana to just take the guy's word is a little bit like,
yeah,
something should have been done before the fight.
The flags were being thrown. Things were like, whoa. Alarm bells ringing. This fight is weird. Hours before the fight. The money was moving in odd ways, and I mean, I wish I.
Well, listen, Dave.
I wish I would have
listen.
known. I would have cashed in too. Man, I'm hearing about this
But
after the
listen-
fact. I'm like, damn, I missed it. Fixed fight. I could have been
But-
on the other side. I could have made millions. Dang it.
But Freddie has a point there. I mean, like Dana White came in. He's not going to admit that he might possibly throw the fight. But you got to look at it a little bit deeper. I think Dana White did the right thing right away to go straight to Cash Patel from the FBI and really get this going, because I believe that if somebody's going to do this at that level, it could be that he's compromised, dude. It could be that there's some mob affiliation that's telling him,
Of
listen,
course.
you got a couple of choices. You've got
Sure.
choice A and you've got choice B. Choice A is that, prepare your suit because you're going to be like 6 feet under. And choice B is you do everything you can to make sure you wait in that first round, you call it. It could happen. And if the UFC doesn't look into this and the FBI doesn't really look into it further, it could tarnish the sport. But the thing is that can happen to any fighter. It can happen to Tom Aspinall. Mind you, he got eye poked, almost lost his eyes. But it can happen to anybody, really, if they get compromised. And it's happened in boxing. And we saw that with the Don King days where, certain people kind of lost their lives, because of certain betting factors. I'm just saying, we never know what's going on behind the scenes. And this poor guy might be, put up against the wall to throw that fight, if he really did.
Yeah, well, I think the UFC believes he did. They released him immediately
That's-
and contacted the FBI after he lost his fight. I mean, what do you
It's pretty
think?
serious, yeah.
The
Yeah,
UFC
no,
thinks he
absolutely.
did. The UFC thinks he threw the fight. The UFC thinks that there was some shady business going on, that he threw the fight for money. And, I mean, there's more to this story because other fighters have come out now and said, oh, I was offered money to throw fights and this and that. And then they came out and they said this on Twitter or Instagram, and then they came out afterwards and they were like, well, I was just joking, because I don't think they realized how serious it was and that the FBI would contact them and press them and threaten them with charges if they didn't give up who exactly was trying to get them to do it. I mean, that's how the FBI operates. They go, oh, yeah, you were involved in a potential crime? Let me go talk to you, scare you, threaten you with charges, and make you flip and give up whoever the money man is behind this fight-fixing scheme. And I think the fighters got a little scared, and they were like, oh, it's just a joke, or I was just hacked, or whatever. But I think you got to take the first statement and go, yeah, that's what you really meant, is that you were offered some money to throw a fight and you didn't do it, is what you're saying. And if these people are saying that they were offered money to throw fights,
And they didn't tell nobody, like not even their boss.
well, why would they? I mean, that's the type of thing if you throw a fight.
I mean, if you're not gonna throw the fight, if you
Yeah.
refuse to do it, I would
Well-
think that you would tell it to somebody.
Well, but, AJ made a point about, like a criminal element or organized crime being involved, right? AJ, you're making a ton of noise. Can you,
Sorry, bud.
your volume
Yeah,
on your
go
mic
ahead.
is always wrong because you don't actually talk into your mic. And I mean, it's every week with you, but whatever. You're just making a lot of noise
Every
with
2
your
weeks.
papers shuffling.
I dropped it, man.
But the organized
Keep going.
crime
It was
element,
getting
Fred,
good.
it's like you don't always want to tell on those people. Like if dangerous mafia member or, biker gang member came up to you and said, hey, we want you to throw this fight,
Well,
and you say, thanks, but no thanks, you're not going to go tell the SQ or the FBI or whoever because you're scared and you don't want to do that.
I don't know, man. If you're working for the UFC, if you're working for the NBA, who's had their own issue recently, and you've done nothing wrong, you should be telling Dana White. You should be telling the commissioner of the NBA. You should be telling somebody about what's happening to you. You shouldn't just keep it to yourself. Now, where you might want to keep it is if you have something to hide, which I think might be the case in some situations. For the NBA case, there was some rumors like basically somebody like a player ends up playing poker or whatever, and he ends up losing a bunch of money to some mobsters, and then that's how they get in bed with them, and then now they don't want to talk about that. But if you're a fighter and you have nothing to, like, you don't even know who this guy that's approaching you, and he's approaching you to throw a fight, well, you should talk to Dana White, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
but what
Dana
makes
White
you
has a
think
lot
they
of
don't know these
contacts.
guys? Why would you think that they
Well,
don't
that's
know
what
them?
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Maybe they have something to hide, and that's the reason that they don't go.
Well, but
Well,
the
I don't
thing,
think
Fred,
it's
is
necessarily something to hide. I think it's just, sometimes you brush up against organized crime without being involved in organized crime.
sure that
'Cause
happens all the time.
Some of these guys that are in the criminal world, they have money, they like fighters, they want to hang out, they're going to party with you, they're going to buy you stuff. It's going to be a fun party with them. They have access to all the things, and you're going to hang out and you're going to be friends. And then some of them might train at your gym because they want to learn how to fight and they have time. And, I mean, Fred, you've been in the martial arts world long enough. You know that there's an element of organized crime in the MMA world. That doesn't necessarily mean the fighters themselves are involved, but there's a money element that the fighters sometimes need. There's, support from that end. And, if you're a low-level fighter in the UFC making 20 grand, 30 grand a fight, some of these guys are really going to be helping you out and taking care of you. Like, I don't know who is involved in asking these fighters to fix fights, but you could see, a guy hanging out, being friends, go to the gym with the guy. He's hooked up with something. You don't know exactly what. You party with him. You're friendly. And then one day over some drinks, he goes, hey, your next one, if you want to maybe make some real money, I know you're making like 30 grand of this fight. I can make you 100 if you throw the fight. And then you go, thanks, but no thanks. You're not going to tell on that guy. You go, thanks, man, but I'm gonna win, and then
Well,
I'm gonna
maybe
make
you
even
should.
more in the future. So it's cool.
Maybe
And he's
you
like,
should
okay,
be telling on that guy.
well, maybe you should, but you're not going to be. You know what I mean? You're not
listen,
going to.
Guys, I'm going to tell you something.
wouldn't.
Maybe listen. I might know a little bit more about some things about that world.
Of
But I'm going
course,
to tell you something. Most of the time,
sure you do.
No, but I'm going to say one thing is that sometimes it depends on the fighter, because if a fighter has like family and whatnot, they might not approach him depending on what the activity of that fighter is. So, for example, let's just say Dulgarian, they're going to look into his background. Let's say that he was a heavy gambler himself, and he had a long line of debts that he owes. And the problem is that he's getting into the world of MMA. And a lot of times when they throw fights, in boxing, they used to throw the big fights because that's where the money was. But now in the UFC, to throw a big fight, especially on the big names, it's hard. You really gotta, be a Hollywood actor, Oscar material to be able to pull it off. But usually it's those obscure fighters that are coming up that could be manipulated to throw that fight. And I think that's what happened with Dulgarian. I think they got to look at, I'm just saying personally, what I suspect is look at his background, see if he doesn't owe a lot of debts to gambling or whatnot. And I think that might be the first step, for Cash Patel and the FBI to look into, because I have a feeling this guy he's over his head over something, or it could be his coaches,
Or maybe,
or it could be somebody in his family, but somebody is over their head.
Okay, well, how about this? There's another theory on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen it, but with Dulgarian specifically, he has some sort of sponsorship deal job with the Nelk Boys, and this
Nelk
guy
Boys.
Steve Will Do It. Nelk Boys is a podcast. Steve Will Do It is part of them, I think, and is a gambler, like a big time gambling guy. And if I can show this to you, this is Dulgarian. Dulgarian, who also was interviewed on MMA Junkie, saying that fighters should get like 3 or 5% of gamblers' winnings if they bet on them. He said this before the fight. Yeah, he's like, yeah, if you bet on me, I should get like 3 or 5% of what you win. It's like, that's not how gambling works.
Yeah, no. Try to
mean, it's
control
not-
that.
Your
If
money.
I lose,
Yeah.
does he cover 3 to 5%?
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean,
good
the
point,
logic didn't
Defra.
really add up there, but he wanted that money. And
But that's the
so
sound.
here-
Sorry, Dave, to interrupt. That's the sound of somebody who's desperate. I would say that.
I don't know. So this is a post from April 2024 from Isaac Dulgarian, who says Steve Will Do Us got us out of the RV. So he was living in an RV, and now he lives in this nice home because of this guy, Steve Will Do It. And then if you go to see who Steve Will Do It is, it's this gentleman who seems lovely. And he is a prize pick, roulette, gambling guy. Like, he's making picks, making bets. I had 170K on Dodgers money line November 2nd. Need a parlay. Like, this guy is a gambling guy, and this gambling guy paid for Dulgarian's house.
Here we go. Here we go.
So, I mean, there's that too. I don't know what that is. I'm not saying that Steve Will Do It is involved in Dulgarian and fight fixing or whatever. I'm just saying
Steve's doing it.
there's well, yeah, if anybody will do it, I guess Steve will do it.
I hope the FBI really goes after these guys, because that's the only way you're gonna clean it. Make an example of them and make them realize that gambling and professional sport just doesn't work together, man. It's for the integrity of the sport. And as for the UFC, as we said at the beginning, that fight should never have gone on. I feel like with all the information they had, they should have pulled it right away and said, I mean, in the middle of the fight, if you see the guy giving an awful performance, you just stop it in the middle of the fight. Say, hey, stop, man. This is not good.
I would have just pulled the fight and given no reason, which happens sometimes. Sometimes, like, a fight gets pulled, and you're like, why? And no one ever really knows. Was there an injury? Was there whatever? And people forget about it because it's a forgettable fight on a forgettable card. They could have pulled that fight and said nothing, and no one would have known. You give the other guy his win and show money. You cut Dulgarian quietly, and people go, what happened? And no one really knows, and no one asks questions. Instead, Dulgarian has that terrible performance, and the whole world now is asking, hey, UFC, are your fights real? Like, you see what happened. They let that fight go on, and then it exploded in their face. If they would have pulled that fight, nothing. We wouldn't have known anything. No one would be talking about gambling in the UFC and fight fixing and any of that. It wouldn't be an issue whatsoever. But because of that Dulgarian fight, now everybody's looking at certain fighters, certain referees. I'm seeing a lot of talk about Jason Herzog. I don't know why, but people are saying some of his stoppages have been suspect. I've seen a couple of clips. I'm not convinced. But judges, there's not a ton of money for refs and judges, so there's definitely a lane there. I don't know if anything's actually taken place, but people are talking now about people in the sport, and that's not good. The integrity is in question, and that's not good.
AJ said earlier, like, he doesn't take it with affect the big guys, and I tend to disagree. I'm actually surprised it's with guys that are marginal, that are not known, because big gambling on these guys doesn't happen much. Whereas if you take the main event, I don't know, Conor McGregor against Cowboy Cerrone, like, a lot of people are betting on that, so somebody could make money without it being flagged as quickly. So I think that could happen on big fights or on small fights. So unfortunately, man, they gotta take it seriously, man, and they gotta make example. I think that's the only solution is if you have enough to convict this guy, well, you gotta go after him, man, and make an example of him if you don't want this to happen again.
I agree. If he really did throw the fight, you gotta charge him to the fullest extent of the law, baby. Law and order.
Let's ask ChatGPT, what's the longest somebody could get for fight fixing?
Yeah. Let's find out.
5 years?
How many years is this guy looking at, It's just bad for the whole sport, man. It's a black eye on the sport, and then you look at fights, and people are questioning so many fights, and we sit here and we make picks every week, and we do parlays, and now you go, should we even do this? Are we contributing to the problem? And also, how many of these fights are real that we're picking? Like, what's going on?
I mean, it's hard to really say because we watched
Come
so
on,
many
man.
fights. I mean, the only times where things were questionable was the decisions by the judges, where I'm like, how did that go that way when we clearly saw that it went the other way? But fights itself, I mean, we've seen so many fights. I can never really say that there was a fight that I'm like, I think this is a questionable fight.
Yeah, I
But
haven't seen
you
many
know,
where I go that was fixed. Honestly, like we
yeah,
watched so many fights, and most of them seem quite real to me. I'm surprised. Like I'm surprised, honestly. I didn't think that this was actually happening.
look,
I
I
don't
have to
think
see
it's
MMA.
that
that.
hard to fix a fight, honestly.
You don't
I don't
think?
think it's that hard. No, no. If a guy wants to get tapped, he could get tapped.
Yeah. You see
Well,
guys.
that is, yeah, I
You see
guess
guys
to
kind
some
of like
extent,
give
but
up, and you go, "Oh, well, he just broke mentally." But maybe
Go
it's like,
go
nah,
go go for a shitty takedown. Don't get the takedown. Other guy gets a guillotine, whatever. And like there's ways.
well, it depends on how much of a war that fight is. I mean, if it's in the first
It's
round and
probably
the
easier in MMA than it is in boxing because fixing, getting knocked out, that's not easy. When a guy gets knocked out, he's really getting knocked out. But fixing a grappling aspect, I could see that happen.
I don't know, man,
So
because one fighter,
ChatGPT says it depends if it's federal charges or state charges, but on federal charges, the maximum sentence is only 5 years. I'm a little surprised it's not more than that. And
that's
under
what I
state
thought.
law, depending of which state, in Nevada it's 10 years, in New York it's 7 years, in California it's 3 years. So it depends if it's a federal charge or it's a state charge, and it depends where you are.
I mean, I guess it's not that bad, but I think Dulgarian's fight career is basically done at this point. Like he was a prospect, and now I don't think anyone wants to see him fight. People are like, he's being investigated by the FBI. People are gonna be suspicious about him. Like his career is
Unless they
basically
prove that,
ruined.
but unless it turns out that he didn't fix that fight and it
I
was actually
guess.
what it is, you know
I
what I'm
guess,
saying?
but man, come
Uh,
on. Well, I mean,
it's
it's weird stuff going on.
look, they're gonna tie in all the bets and who's betting and whatnot. If anything's linked to him in any way, shape, or form, it's gonna show that he was on the take. But if there's
I
nothing that
mean,
can link to him from the betters, you have to give the benefit of the doubt there, and that's the problem.
yeah, but the FBI will end up figuring all this out. Like, look at what
100%, yeah.
happened in the NBA a couple of weeks ago. Like the FBI investigated for like over a year Terry Rozier, a guy from the Miami Heat, and like when it started a year ago, there was like rumors and all that, and the NBA went like, "Oh, we did our own investigation, but nothing happened," and the FBI they did a real investigation and something did end up happening, and this will probably happen to the UFC also. The UFC could say, "Oh, we did our own investigation, blah blah blah." The FBI is going to do their own investigation if they see some charges, because we're dealing. This is fraud. Like you can't have these results be questionable, man. Because man, once this starts, what stops people from like bringing a class action suit against the casinos or whatever, saying like, "Hey, I'm betting money here, but it's not a legit like result."
Yep.
So like this type of thing has to be taken seriously for by the government.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this happens now, and I don't think there's any sports league more closely tied to the current government in the States than the UFC. Like, are we seeing, I don't watch a lot of other sports, but I watched, like the World Series and stuff like that. I didn't see Kash Patel or Donald Trump at the World Series, but I saw them, at UFC shows. Like, because, like, what's that investigation going to be like? You got to figure the UFC is going to get a good deal out of whatever. They're going to wind up looking all right because of how close. I mean, the NFL isn't holding a game on the White House lawn. The UFC is going to hold fights on the White House lawn. You know what I mean? Like, they're pretty tight with the administration, so you got to figure they're going to get the most favorable investigation possible for a sports league, given the circumstances.
all these team owners have contacts in the political world and all that, so I think like it's similar from one sport to the other. But
Fred,
yeah, like
please. No. Dana White, how tight he is. Have you seen Donald Trump with any commissioner of any sport more than you've seen him with Dana White, man? Come on. What?
no, but I
No.
mean like in the okay, but trust me, Jerry Jones probably knows Donald Trump
Yeah,
also,
but-
and it's a rich man's circle, man. They know each other.
Yeah, but Dana is like, I mean, they're buddies.
I mean,
you know
Donald
what I mean?
Trump
like,
is
they're
at
friends.
football games. Wasn't he at the baseball game? Like he goes everywhere, man. People know.
Was he? He was at a Yankees game. He went at
Yeah.
he was at the Yankees game on September 11th, and then they went on a big win streak afterwards. It was great. I was like, bring him back. Bring him back. Should have brought him back for the playoffs. Whew. 106 days before the first game of spring training. Counting down the days to baseball. Can't wait. So it's bad for the UFC. Hopefully it's not too rampant, you know? Hopefully it's just like a few guys here and there, maybe, and then you get rid of it and it's gone. But
like Fred said, the only way to really stop this type of possibility happening in the future is by putting like a heavy fine and sentence, and basically like the whole team should be suspended, like from the coaches to whoever's involved with that fighter should be banned from the UFC. Let them go to another organization or whatever, and even then, I mean, it's got to be taken seriously because it could happen
is that
again.
the only way?
And
or,
how else would you do it?
well, I would say that it wouldn't be so easy and so cheap to fix fights if the fighters were paid better.
Terry Rozier
But
in
again-
the NBA made $26 million this year, and he got arrested.
Yeah, good point, man.
Was he
He's got a
fixing
point there, Dave.
NBA games?
He was fixing the over/under on his point total, on things like that. He was telling people bet the under on my point total, and he came out of games early saying, "Oh, I hurt myself. I can't continue this game."
Yep, that's
He
true.
was throwing games.
Yeah, he was throwing games.
I mean, he was throwing his point total. He wasn't throwing the game
Well,
necessarily, but
he wasn't performing
yeah.
to his best abilities for
Yeah,
his team.
exactly.
That's throwing a game.
And
No, his
what's
money
that,
was making
what's
for
that
that.
what's that ex-mobster that has a podcast? Michael Francesi, whatever his name
Yeah.
is.
Francesi. Yeah.
Okay.
Michael
Well,
Francesi.
if you listen to him, he says like a lot of these guys, what happened is you're dealing with NBA guys that have a lot of money, but they end
Yeah.
up like gambling
Yeah.
and owing a bunch of money. And like, oh, hey, you just lost $700,000 or whatever, and it's like, hey, here's how we could fix it.
Yes.
Instead of you giving me $700,000, but then these guys are hooked for life because like it's not only one time. He's not only going to ask you to throw one game to throw. You're going to be asked to do that multiple times. At some point you're going to get caught.
the reason why they keep doing it is that they have leverage on them as well.
Yeah.
So that they know that they could throw them under
once
the
you
bus
do
at
it,
any
yeah.
point. Yeah,
Once
you know,
do
so
it, you
it's
committed
like
a crime.
Once you're in,
absolutely.
you're in.
You're
you
done.
can't get
Yeah.
out. Like once you get dirty,
Remember The Sopranos?
you're dirty. You can't get clean. They keep you dirty.
They just keep you there on a very, very tight leash.
Because
Man.
what are you gonna
And
do?
you're done.
What are you gonna do?
Niente.
It's why people rob drug dealers. What are they gonna do? Call the police? Say this guy took my drugs? They can't do that.
Crazy, man.
Did I just give away a secret?
No,
Don't do that,
well,
kids.
maybe. Just say no. What happened to that owl that used to say, just say no?
Huh?
We got to start doing that for like gambling now. Just say no.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Are we gonna give
seriously, I'm not
parlays for this weekend's UFC Apex card?
Damn right,
Well,
man.
like I've said it before, man. I think I don't gamble my parlays. I'm not as scared to admit it. And man, more and more I hear all these stories in sports about gambling, and I'm like, maybe the old days where gambling was frowned upon was the right way.
I kind of liked when it was a little bit frowned upon. Now, like, everybody does it. I don't really like doing it anymore. I give parlays, and I very rarely bet them. Like, the only time I really bet my parlay is when we're doing, like, a watch-along, and I want to make the evening a little bit more spicy. You know what I mean? And even then, I'm betting, like, $15, $20 at the most, because I'm not a big gambler, and I know it is a problem for a lot of people. I do it once in a while, very rarely, every month or couple of months, you know? And a lot of times I win, which is kind of nice, you know? But I don't like to do it. Sometimes I lose. It feels like I even out. But I just don't like it that much, and I think that it's definitely dangerous. But I'm lucky because I think a lot of people, there's something about losing that makes them want to gamble more. When I lose, I don't want to. I'm like, well, I don't want to do this again. This sucks. So that's good. I don't have the thing where you go, ooh, like they chase it. You know, you lose, and then you're like, I got to get it back. I can do this and that, and I'll figure it out. And it's like, nah. If I lose, I'm like, man, I'm stupid. I must be bad at this gambling thing. I should stop. That's how I feel every time I lose.
It's an addiction, Dave. It's an addiction, and you can't stop. Look at Drake, how much money he used to drop on different
That's not
fights
an addiction. That's a sponsorship. That's money he's getting from stake to roll for free. What are you talking about?
Sure, absolutely. But I'm just talking about, on Drake's side. But I'm just saying in general, like, you know, when you start like going hardcore, man, there are times when you can't stop. And that's what the problem is. And I really believe that this guy
Okay,
sometimes you got to
it's an
stop
addiction.
playing basketball, go play minor league baseball. Just take a time out. You know what I mean? Just take a time out.
You're saying it's an addiction, and you might be right. It might be an addiction, but you see, Charles Barkley on the NBA scandal had this comment about like, no, it's just dumb. Charles Barkley is a gambler. He says it himself. He goes and there's been story about him losing $300,000-$400,000 at the casino, which okay, you know, like that's an addiction. But once you go risk your livelihood, then it becomes dumb at some point. Like if you're gonna fix a fight, which is gonna fuck up your career forever, if you're gonna fix an NBA game, which is gonna stop you from winning money, it becomes just a dumb decision. And at some point, man, you can't have pity for people that make dumb decisions.
I mean, look at Pete Rose. What happened to him? You know, I mean, Pete Rose, one of the greatest baseball players of all time. Yeah, you know, and it was a shame not to see him get into the Hall of Fame. Yeah,
it cost him.
It cost him.
That's what you get.
When you.
That's
how
what
they
you
should
get.
Treat gambling. Yeah, that's how they should treat it.
Yes, you shouldn't be gambling on the sport that you're in. You just shouldn't. I mean, I think maybe, like, you know, UFC fighters aren't allowed to gamble on UFC fights, even if they're not in them and not on the card or whatever. I kind of think that they should be able to. Because, I mean, I don't know. If we can, why can't they? But
Dude, I'm going to give you an example.
But, like, you shouldn't be gambling on your own performance. Like you can't. Like, I guess you give them a little bit and they'll take too much, and that's why they're like, no, you can't. You used to be able to gamble on your own fight. You used to be able to bet on yourself and do all this stuff. Then the UFC put a stop to that only recently, past couple of years, because there were issues, right? Who was that coach? What was that guy?
James Krause.
Yeah, James Krause. He had a fighter who was he was
injured,
gambling a lot, James Krause, and now no one's allowed to be under James Krause because James Krause is under FBI investigation.
But you see his story, and look, it's not better, but his story is a little different, I feel, because he was giving information about guys being injured, like, oh, this guy's injured, so he's going to lose. Which, you know, look, it's info that sometimes you might know, like, hey, LeBron James is injured. He's not going to be playing well or whatever.
Guess. But
that's different than throwing a fight, I feel.
But I think it's different. I think if you're the coach of the fighter and your fighter's hurt and you're telling people, yo, my fighter's hurt, he's going to lose, that's fucked up. But if you are a coach and you know another guy who told, like, if his coach tells you, yo, my guy's hurt, he might not, then you go, okay, that's interesting. I'm going to bet on that. And that coach should not have said that. But if you're telling people actively, like, yo, I am his coach, he is my fighter, he is hurt, we are expecting him to lose, you should not, as a coach, in good conscience, let that fighter fight. You should tell that fighter, hey, man, you're hurt, you're going to lose, I'm telling people you're going to lose, and to put money on it. So maybe you shouldn't fight. Like, you can't double dip here if you're the coach. If I got inside information, like if somebody is fighting, some Montreal fighter is fighting in the UFC, and his arm broke 3 weeks ago, but he's still going to fight, and one of his training partners happens to tell me, I mean, I can go bet on that. I think that's fair. Sometimes you get a little inside information, and that's what, sometimes sports gambling is all about. Is it true? Do you know? Are you a doctor? Maybe he can win with one arm. You know what I mean? You don't know. Nothing is for sure. But I think a little inside information is maybe a little shady, but I think allowed. I think that's fair. But if you're the coach, come on. Like if you're the coach of some other fight, like say you're the coach of the TriStar Gym here, right? You're Faraz Zahabi, and you're watching some fighter that's from Dagestan fighting another fighter from Mexico. I think you should be able to look at that fight and go, oh, I'm going to bet on this guy. I think he's going to win because I know about fighting. Is that inside information because you know a lot about fighting and you're just kind of aware of the sport? I don't think so.
Well, it's like the stock market, right? To be really good at the stock market, you got to really understand what you're putting your money into, understanding
knowledge.
The company. It's just forecasting.
There's a difference between inside information and knowledge, but also, like, even a little inside information is like, I don't know, camps should be keeping things tight. If there's an injury, you should be quiet about it. If things start to leak, well, if gamblers are going to hear about it, your opponent's probably going to hear about it. So, good luck,
Yeah.
Loose lips sink ships. I mean, it is what it is. But as the coach, right, if you're James Krause, you can't go, this guy's hurt. I know it because I saw him get hurt yesterday in training, and he's going to lose. He's still fighting because he's crazy and he needs the money. So everybody bet against him because we're going to cash in on this guy's sorrow.
So
Minner, that's who it was.
And this is another discussion, but this comes back a little bit maybe to what sometimes I say. I feel like UFC fighters should be getting a minimum salary yearly where they're not forced to fight injured and things like that. So and fighting injured is different than fixing a fight, but in a way it's still like almost like fixing a fight.
I agree.
True.
I agree. Okay, so that's bad. There's some fights this weekend that are not great. Gabriel Bonfim and Randy Brown is the main event. And some other fights, I don't know. Next week is the big one. Next week we have UFC 322, Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev. It is the main event for the UFC welterweight title. Islam moving up to 170 to fight JDM. Can he do it? A lot of people are excited about this fight. A lot of buzz around this fight. Can Islam get the takedowns that he needs to not only take Jack Della down, but to keep him down? We saw Bilal Muhammad, get a couple takedowns, but really struggle to keep Jack Della down on the mat. He springs right back up. You can take a man down, but to hold him down and then to finish him on the ground is a whole different thing. And Islam Makhachev is maybe the best in the sport at doing that, but he was the best in the sport at 155 pounds at doing that. Now he moves up to 170. Does that translate to 170? I was thinking no, and now I'm kind of leaning towards yes, it will translate, and Islam will get it done. I saw an interview recently with Islam, and he talked about how big he was and how he's bulked up and muscled up, and he's like really 170 now, and like he's going to be dropping weight to
It's
make
probably
170.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's like maybe 190, 195 type of thing. Like he's big now. He's big. I think he did things the right way. He's going to be matching the strength of Jack Della Maddalena, and I think he's going to get it done. I'm very interested in this fight because Jack Della Maddalena has the ability to defeat Islam Makhachev if he can defend that takedown, which we've seen him have very good takedown defense. Very good. Will it be enough, though, against the great Islam Makhachev, a guy who at this point is like a living legend in the UFC? He's a future UFC Hall of Famer. He's one of the greatest 155ers of all time. And he's moving up to 170 to really cement his legacy as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Islam Makhachev beats Jack Della Maddalena. People are going to talk about Islam as maybe the best ever.
Well, at that point, Dave, if he does win that fight, he actually ties Anderson Silva for the longest streak. I mean, that's impressive.
In the UFC. Yeah.
Win streak, yeah. So that's pretty impressive.
Amazing.
So you're right, he'll be up there.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that kind of like you said something, you know, it's like Jack is gonna have a hard time cutting weight, where it's gonna be completely the opposite for Islam. He's not gonna be like drained or like weight cut. He's going into it, and he's gonna be less physically drained than he's been in his other fights. So you're going in with a very, very pumped 170 Islam. It's gonna.
You think he wins?
I think he's going to be a two-time champion, and he's going to be tying Anderson Silva's record. And I think this guy's going to go down with Khabib and the Dagestanian team as some of the greatest fighters and fighting camp in the history of the UFC. And then there's all the other guys that are coming up from that camp. That's the scariest part.
Yeah. Incredible team.
I just like the matchup. I'm going to wait for next week to pick a fighter because I love that. I didn't think Jack Della Maddalena would beat Bilal, and he dominated Bilal. Like, it wasn't even close. So,
yeah,
I've become a fan of Jack, JDM, and I'll tell you what, the co-main event is pretty good. Also, man, I want to see Zhang Weili going up in weight class against Valentina.
Yeah,
Zhang Weili is a monster, and I think Valentina's getting a little older. She's had some decent performances recently, but I'm leaning towards Zhang Weili in this one to win a title in another division.
It's very cool what we're seeing next week. Two great champions, long defending champions in Zhang Weili and Islam Makhachev moving up in weight to challenge themselves against the champion there. It's a very, very cool double main event next weekend. We're going to do a watch along for that, right? I mean, we have to. AJ? You're not campaigning anymore. You're back with your main focus of the show off your political campaign. AJ finishing in 4th place out of 4 candidates in NDG.
Well,
Let's
the thing
AJ
is, I'm going to tell you.
for his failed candidacy.
Listen, no, not at
getting,
all. Actually,
300 something votes. Congratulations,
400.
AJ.
400.
No, it's 300.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Close to 400 in the end with the spoiled balance. But the thing is this. I'm going to tell you something.
He's counting spoiled balance.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something. Our team was formed in 2 months. Right. For a team that was formed in 2 months, we're probably the best new team that got like the amount of votes that we did. We actually did a lot better than expected. Listen, and you know what? We're a brand new team, 2 months old. It doesn't matter because I'm not impressed by the performances of the people who won that are going to bring this city down to the level that it's already at the pit. But regardless, dude, you know, it was hard. I'm going to tell you something. You know, even the guy who was above me, I mean, I campaigned against him. The guy never spoke. He never attended any events. And the thing is that, yeah, it just goes to show you sometimes, you know,
challenge him.
I can't get into it.
Yeah,
I could. I would smash
AJ,
them all. But
I know I'm making fun of you a little bit, but good for you. You tried. You tried.
No, I tried. I'm still in there, man. I'm not finished. You think I'm done?
Yeah.
I'm still going to be at the meetings. I'm still going to be involved. I'm still part of the party. You know,
Struck
still
out.
part of Future Montreal, dude. Listen,
Oh,
we're
good.
a community-based.
It's
We're a
still a party.
community-based team.
Okay.
Absolutely, man. We did pretty well for a new party. We knew that we weren't going to win. We knew that. But the thing is that we needed to make our name known. We needed to be out there. We got a lot more support than I expected. With the amount of votes that I got, I was surprised. I didn't think it would be anywhere
You're boring,
close to
Fred.
that.
Fred's bored.
No, but
Thanks,
the truth,
AJ.
listen,
Super chat.
listen. No. Remember this. I'm there to fight for Montreal. But I am, and so is everybody else. So I'm there to support NDG, and I'll be there. In 4 years, just like George St. Pierre,
We're
I'll
proud
be
of
back.
you, AJ. You did it. Well,
you
you
know, I
almost
worked
did
hard,
it, but
dude.
you'll do it next time. You'll get him next time.
Yeah. No, we worked hard, man. Like, you know, it was a very hard campaign. And to be honest, guys, you saw me. I was gone for a whole month.
Yeah, I know.
didn't
You
sleep.
disappeared from the
I
show. It
know.
was very uncool.
Well,
Very
listen, I was
uncool,
promoting
AJ.
the I know, but I was out there promoting the show on a global level, man. And to be honest, man, I've met so many new people. I had people that voted for me just because they saw us from the show. The thing is that, you know, it's hard
Thank
to go
me
up
for those
against.
votes. Those are all my votes.
Thanks, bud. I appreciate it. And you know
That's
what?
right.
We did pretty good. But the most important thing is that you got to carry on. That's what counts. And I'm there
Carry
to
on.
support the community. And
Well,
you
good
know,
luck to
jiu-jitsu
you.
guys, we might have been tapped out, but we're gonna get back on the saddle and get back in the ring again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has inspired me. If AJ can run for city council, I could be mayor of the city, I think. So
Well, dude,
know,
it wasn't
anything's-
easy, man. You know,
anything's possible
listen,
in this stupid
listen,
city.
You gotta listen. I didn't think about it, but you gotta have guts to go speak in front of a park, in front of hundreds of people, and talk about like different like policies and talk about different like community needs. And
Yeah.
you're it's you know it's challenging. And let me tell you, man, you
Cool.
got to be out there, and you've got cameras. I've been on podcasts. I've been all over the place.
You were on
but
podcasts?
in the end, Yeah, I was on news. I was on podcasts. I was in newspapers. I was all over the place. But
Yeah.
the thing is that as a new party, we did what we needed to do. We're a community-based party, and that's what we're all about. We're not politicians. We're not there to promise things that we can't deliver. I'm there to make sure that the community gets their fair share, especially NDG Côte d'Ivoire. We need it. And in the end, man, even the other candidates that won and the ones that I was like, some of them were really cool. 95% of them were really cool. The other 5%, on the other hand, man, would I like to bring him in a boxing ring. Let me tell you. But that's a different story. And those are the ones that, you know, give a bad name to, you know.
So you're saying if you get elected, you're going to act like a dictator and you're going to
Justin
bring your
Trudeau.
opponents to a boxing ring?
I'll bring him to a boxing ring, man. Listen, if I got in, I could have challenged Trudeau to a boxing match. That would have been great.
He's not a politician anymore.
Oh, yeah, it's true. What is he now? He's a star again.
He's Mr. Perry.
Honestly, I
Yeah.
thought he was. I won't say it.
All right,
but-
I don't care. So UFC 322 is next weekend. Bo Nickel was supposed to be on the pay-per-view against Rodolfo Vieira, but I guess they bumped him and put Beneil Dariush versus Benoit Saint Denis on the pay-per-view instead.
Yeah.
I guess they
think
were on
that'll
the
be a better
prelims
fight.
and then they got bumped. They did a little switcheroo. Whatever,
Makes sense, no?
I guess. Yeah, both good fights. I don't think it's a big deal. And Jake Paul, he was supposed to box Gervonta Davis, but it seems like it's not happening. And now he's looking for an
Why?
opponent, and maybe Nate Diaz is gonna box him again. And Jake Paul wanted Francis Ngannou, and I really wanted that, but then Francis didn't want to do it. I don't know what's going on.
Do you think? I don't know.
Francis Ngannou and Jake
Francis-
Paul would be hilarious.
That
I'm
would be, like,
reading that
crazy.
the Nate Diaz maybe, no? Is
Yeah, I
that
mean
not
that's a strong
a real
rumor going
rumor?
right now. Nate. I don't want to see that again. Nate lost the first time. It sucked. Don't do it.
This is a perfect time for John Jones to come in and box if he wanted to box, like
Ooh.
he said.
I think
Hey,
he's still
wouldn't
under
that be
contract with the
interesting?
UFC. I don't think he can.
Really? Oof.
Yeah,
Dana White's made exceptions. Conor McGregor. So why not make it for John Jones?
because he's mad at him.
True.
He's
Good
mad
point.
because he turned down that Aspinall fight. Did we not do a
Well,
show
I-
last week? Did we not talk about Aspinall and Cyril?
Bud, no, we didn't.
Huh.
Listen,
was,
man.
that
That eye
sucked.
poke was. Listen. That eye
What a
poke.
ter-
it
I was
wasn't-
watching that pay-per-view and I was like, cool. This is whatever. I can't wait for the main event. Then the main event happened, and it ended in like 2 minutes because of an eye poke and a no contest. Total
Well, it was
disaster.
a double eye poke.
That
But
was,
it was
the
a double eye
worst
poke.
ending to a UFC pay-per-view I'd ever seen. No UFC pay-per-view has ever ended that poorly. I mean, that was just awful. Because the
It was
whole
just bad
card was
timing.
about that one fight.
Cyril was
and then,
doing good also.
yeah, Cyril was doing real good. Hey, by the way, guys, I was the only one who picked Cyril, and I picked
Yeah,
him
but
to
so was
win by
Tom.
decision.
What are you talking about?
What?
Tom was doing okay too.
Everybody
like
says
it was-
Cyril was winning that fight. I had Cyril
Sure.
to win, and he was winning, so I'm taking that as a victory. Cyril won, even though he double eye poked Aspinall. May have blinded Aspinall too. Apparently, Aspinall still
But-
can't quite see.
Okay,
Yeah, but he didn't suffer. I
wanna
saw
say
the
this,
I saw
though.
the update.
my favorite on the subject, my favorite comments were like, Jim Miller, the guy that has the most fight in the UFC, he's never poked somebody in the eye. At some point, man, you got to put the responsibility on the fighter, man. If you're poking somebody in the eye, man, maybe take a point right away the first time and maybe disqualify him, man. I don't know, man. At some point, it seems like guys that poke eyes do it often, and there's guys that never do it. So
True. But
Okay.
did you see that poke?
I think
did you
taking
actually
a
see
point,
it?
taking a point is definitely like it's got to happen quicker. You can't just get one free eye poke. You got to get a point taken away immediately. But I think a disqualification in that situation would have been too much because I don't think Cyril meant.
No, he
Okay,
didn't.
but
do that.
a point right away. Like when somebody grabs the cage, you'll see guys lose a point sometimes on the first time they do it.
Yeah,
And it should you should put the responsibility of not poking somebody in the eye on the
Yeah.
fighter, man.
yeah, I
It's your
agree.
responsibility not to do that.
If you cheat, there should be a consequence. An eye
But
poke.
it's not like you're cheating.
An eye poke.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is. You're cheating.
Well,
I mean, in football, if you do a horse collar, it's a penalty. Like you
Yeah.
know, sports have rules, and can't eye poke, man.
But-
It should
but
be on the fighter
problem
to
is if you look,
not eye poke.
but the problem is it depends on the style of the fighter, and a lot of eye pokes come from guys that do Muay Thai because the Muay Thai stance
Well,
and the Muay Thai
fucking
parry,
learn.
the hands are always
close your hands.
out. Unlike
they need
boxing,
to-
but I know, but it's
Yeah,
you know
Yeah,
what I'm
but
saying?
I know
It's
what
the
you
style
mean.
of the
away
fighter.
also.
yeah.
It's often the
But
pushing
listen.
away that creates the eye poke.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly, especially on
gotta
guys
lose the
with long
habit.
reaches. It's hard, man. It's hard because his style is based on a Muay Thai style stance,
I
and
mean,
it's hard.
trust
But
me, man. Once you
double-
lose a point or two, man, in a fight, and you lose a fight,
100%.
guys are gonna learn.
I agree with that, but unfortunately, it can't go to that extent, even to take away the point. Because if you look at the replay of that eye poke, it was a double eye poke, and let me tell you, dude, I seen a lot of eye pokes. We saw that with Bilal, that he was crying in the ring at one point.
Yeah.
But that eye poke was so deep. It's not the one on the left that he couldn't see; it was the one on the right.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was bad. It was nasty. And to be honest, Tom Aspinall is not a type of guy that's gonna walk away because he thinks he was losing. Not at all. He got double eye
hell
poke.
no.
He couldn't see.
Of course.
But he did, like, the good news is that he didn't suffer a detached retina. And right now he doesn't have any serious long-term eye damage, according to what I read. But that fight will take place again. I think it was, going to be a great fight. It's just, it was unfortunate. The only thing that worries me is that they have this fight again and it happens again. But if it does happen right off the bat, like Freddie said, you take that point off right away. Even if it's a slight touch, whatever it is, the minute the guy flinches, point done, ended. Because, it's.
I mean,
it's sad
use
to see a
replay. Like
heavyweight.
if you want to be sure that it's an actual eye poke, it's quick replay. Yeah, eye poke -1, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Install some type of
Yeah.
rule.
No, you're right. You're right. But we
Yeah,
got to fix that because that was.
I think
that
fouls
sucked.
in general, like we've seen low blows, right?
Kick to the balls. Yeah.
Kick to the balls, and guys are like hurt, and they're taking their time. They have 5 minutes to recover, and they take 3-4 minutes, and then they go back into the fight. And the guy who kicked the other guy in the balls is not penalized in any way. He just gets to keep fighting and then get a rest after kicking his opponent in the balls. His opponent's not resting. His opponent is recovering from the foul. Like,
That
there's
seems
got
like
to
a
be – the referees have to be quicker on the draw for a point deduction. They have to be.
That seems like a good strategy. If I were a coach, I would tell my fighters that they could kick somebody to the balls once,
Yes,
and they only get a warning.
coaches do that for a fact in MMA. I know of at least one who has told his fighters, if you're in trouble, throw a ball kick, you get one for free. That's how the sport
Well, I've heard some
works.
coaches say, like, do the
And
oral
honestly,
check,
if
right?
I were a coach, I would
Right?
say the same thing because it's true. If you're about to get taken down, grab the fence. You get 2 or 3 free fence grabs before anything happens to you. Depending on the referee,
I don't know.
I would study these referees and see who has a tendency to penalize fence grabs and who doesn't.
It seems fence grab gets penalized quicker than other fouls.
Yeah, which is nuts.
Because it's more evident. You can really see that he's holding on. That's the thing. There's certain
Because
like,
it's on purpose every time. Like you could throw a kick, try to hit the leg, the guy moves one way, you think he's going to move the other, you kick him in the balls, it's like, dude, my bad, I'm sorry. You could point, but have your hand like moving up for a punch, and then you go, oh, and then the guy moves right into your fingers, and you poke him in the eye, and you go, oof, that was an accident. If somebody's taking you down, and you grab the fence to not get taken down, and you put your fingers in the fence, that's the thing. Like, you can put your hand on the fence, you just can't put your fingers inside the fence. You can't grip the fence. If you're gripping the fence to defend a takedown, you're doing that on purpose. Like, you know what you're doing. There's no, oh, my bad, I didn't mean to grab the fence. No, you meant to grab the fence. So I think maybe that's why it's penalized quicker, because there are no accidental fence grabs. And you could understand an accidental eye poke and an accidental groin shot. Like, as much as you're saying, Fred, control your weapons and all that, and I agree with you, but at the same time, things do happen, and I really don't think Cyril Gane was doing that intentionally. I mean, things happen in jiu-jitsu when you're rolling with people. Sometimes there's like an elbow in the head. You know what I mean? I got kneed in the head yesterday by Denis, who's very good, but it was an accident, and it's just he moved one way, I moved another, and he kneed me in the head. I was fine, but like, things can happen. You know what I'm saying? Things happen in combat sports by accident. Uh-oh, Fred lost me. Fred, did you lose me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I was
but
just
I'm back.
saying that yesterday when I was rolling with Denis, our buddy Denis at 10th Planet, he accidentally kneed me in the head. He didn't do that on purpose. You know what I mean? It just happened. So, fouls happen by mistake. And that's in jiu-jitsu. That's not MMA where you're throwing punches and there's nerves and we're having a nice light roll. You know what I mean? So, I think you got to give leeway for accidental fouls because they do happen. Like, I know what you're saying, like, right away eye poke, but I think you gotta have some discretion because sometimes it is by accident, and to give a point away in a 3-round fight, it's like significant. It could affect the whole fight.
And other sport and penalties, whether it's intentional or not, they're penalties.
Yeah, I agree. Like in hockey, if you do like a penalty, but it's by accident, you're still in the box for 2 minutes, and then you're shorthanded as a team, and you could give up the goal that loses the game. Like sure.
Okay, in football these days, they want to protect the head.
Hockey.
And every game, you get a guy that gets a penalty because he targeted the head. And the difference between hitting the head and hitting the body is minimum, and it's happening in a split second.
Exactly.
In the end, you're responsible not to go hit at the head now in football.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same thing. You should be responsible not to poke people in the eye.
Definitely an interesting discussion, and I think it's a tough one. But, like, MMA, it's harder to move rules forward because you have to deal with so many sanctioning bodies across the world, where in other sports, it's just the leagues that control the rules of the game. Like Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL, they control the rules to their own sport. The UFC doesn't control the rules to MMA. So it's harder to change things. It's harder to make those adjustments. A lot of people want to go to the UFC and say, fix this, fix that. It's not always up to them. It's the state of Nevada, the state of California, whoever does the fights in Abu Dhabi or whatever. Like UFC, obviously, as the major leagues of MMA, they have a say and they have some sway, but it's different than the other sports.
I would look at things a little bit differently. Instead of taking off points, just like in jiu-jitsu, you have like advantages and you can actually have disadvantages. Like, you could lose a point per se, but the advantage should be given to the fighter who gets harmed. So let's just say the eye poke comes, you don't take away the point, but you give an advantage so that if it's a 3-round fight, it'll actually up the game to be a little bit more aggressive for the guy who's lost that advantage. So let's just say it's like close and it comes into the 3rd round and the guy wins. It could be like even a draw, but he wins because of that advantage. So what I'm saying is that there's many ways that you can up the game. Like if I'm losing because that guy has an advantage, I'm going to cut up that game, maybe try to knock him out, try to submit him even more. I wouldn't like skate, or float, because I might be actually winning the fight, but because of that advantage that my opponent has, I'll really need to kick up the game. And I think they should take something like the jiu-jitsu style and put that in MMA, where it could actually make the rounds a little bit more intense. And that'd be my thing.
I would like maybe a financial aspect tied to it, where it doesn't necessarily affect the fight itself. Like, say it's an accidental eye poke, right? You poke a guy in the eye. It was legitimately an accident. Everybody in the arena knows it was an accident. But his eye kind of hurts. He's winking for like 2-3 minutes, and then he's back into it, and he keeps fighting. I don't know if you take a point away, but how about like a flag system where you throw a flag down? It's like a yellow flag, yellow card. You give him a yellow card. Okay. And that's 10% of your purse. Gone. Goes to your opponent. So
yeah, that would like that's not bad either.
And you do it again, it's like you're 25% of your purse.
Yeah.
Second yellow card is 25% of your purse gone to your opponent. Now you could still win the fight and double your money, because that's usually how it works with the UFC. You get 20,000 to show and 20,000 to win, or whatever it is, 50,000. But that initial purse of like 50,000, or even if you win that fight, the 10 or 15 or 20% of your purse now goes to your opponent because you poked him in the eye twice. I think that's maybe the way to do it. But in order to do that, I think, again, because the fighters are paid so little and it is so tough to survive, like we talked about earlier in the show, I think you got to up the fighters' pay a little bit. But like, I kind of would like that, like a card system where it's like, hey, you're penalized in a real way, but the fight isn't affected because of something you did accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
That might work. Also, more activity, maybe some cards for like action.
AJ, you have a dog?
That's AJ, you have a dog? What's going on?
Dog's going wild, man.
Okay.
He's upset that I lost.
No, you had a dog.
But I think one of the main parts is to MMA and to just make the sport better is they need to start giving finish bonuses. Like the UFC has like performance bonuses and stuff like that. Like if you have a good fight or you have a nice finish, they may give you a bonus. If you have fight of the night, they'll give both guys a bonus. But like, I think the fighters should be incentivized to finish fights way more and not go to decision, so we don't have to deal with points. So even if you are fouled and you lose a point, it doesn't matter because the fight ends with a knockout or a submission. I think we really need to incentivize the finish in MMA way, way more. And I think there needs to be serious bonuses going to every single finish. And if you go to decision, you make less money. That's just how the game should be. The UFC needs to fix their bonus system. I think that would be a good way to just, like, outside of the rules of the sport, just a way for the UFC, something they control as a promotion to make the fight and the sport more exciting. Incentivize ending the fight. Incentivize the finish so we see more finishes and we have more conclusive winners. They got to do that. I don't know why they haven't done that yet. Like, they're ready to give away bonuses. They have tons of money. give away a bonus. Give $50,000 to everybody that finishes a fight. And if you're on the main card of a pay-per-view, it's $100,000 if you finish. Like, incentivize these guys. Make them go for it. Because we're seeing a lot of decisions in, like, main events, and people are getting bored. Dagestan, is very cool. They're very good at fighting, but I don't know if they're the most exciting guys out there. I think more people were excited about fighting when Conor McGregor was talking shit and knocking people out than they are right now. And I think a lot of it is because we're going to decision with some really impressive wrestling that for us grappling nerds, like we all are on this show, is very cool. But for the average public, they're just like boring because not everybody grapples. Not everybody does jiu-jitsu or wrestling or judo. And for the people that don't, they look at MMA these days and they don't recognize things that they like. So incentivize it. Finish the fight. Patrick C. Hamilton dropping the 777 super chat says, looking forward to UFC 322. Islam so far has bet. Yep. That's how I feel. Islam Makhachev. We will preview those fights next week on the show, and we'll do a watch-along. I feel like we haven't done a UFC pay-per-view watch-along in so long. We didn't do 321. I don't think we did 320 either.
Oh, because we were...
Yeah, we were partying for my birthday. So the last one UFC 319? Khamzat Andrikas in August. Boys, we haven't done a UFC watch-along since August?
That's crazy.
Wow. Okay, so next week's going to be a big week on the channel. I'm excited. And I'll be back tomorrow night with Johnny North to talk pro wrestling. Thank you to everybody supporting over at join.ringsidereport.net and membership.ringsidereport.net. Shout out Angelo Cantagones and Patrick C. Hamilton and everybody else checking us out online wherever you are on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Kick, Rumble. Thank you for supporting the Ringside Report Network. Go to ringsidereport.net. That is our official online home. So much stuff and more available for you at ringsidereport.net. I'll see you tomorrow night right here.
Thanks for sticking with us to the end. We would really appreciate it if you could help us spread the word. Please share this episode on whichever social media platform you use. Add a comment below and consider reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. We are an audience-supported network, so consider becoming a recurring supporter at membership.ringsidereport.net. Check out our website at ringsidereport.net